My mom gave my entire college fund to my golden child sister. Years later, I bought the house she was about to retire in. But she had no idea who the new owner was. Hi Reddit. I don't really care if this goes viral or not, but I need to get it off my chest. Let's rewind to about 8 years ago when I was 17, freshly accepted into my dream college for engineering, full ride pending financial approval, and absolutely glowing with excitement. That same week, my mom called me into the kitchen. She wouldn't look me in the eye. "We need to talk about your college fund," she said, folding her arms tight. This fund had been talked about my entire life. Birthday money, savings, part of my late granddad's inheritance, all put away for college since I was in kindergarten. I never touched a cent of it. So imagine the shock when she told me it was gone. "I gave it to your sister," she said. "You're smart. You'll figure something out." My sister, Amber, then 19, had dropped out of community college the year before to travel with her boyfriend. Now she suddenly wanted to go back to school, a private arts institute in another state. And apparently, Mom felt she deserved a fresh start. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. She looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. "You can get loans, scholarships. Amber doesn't have that kind of mind. You'll be fine. No apologies. No guilt. Just expectations." I walked out of the house that day with the air sucked from my lungs. My dad passed when I was 12. I thought maybe Mom was struggling and I hadn't realized. But later that night, I checked the bank statements. Yes, I'd helped set up the online account. $78,000. Gone. Transferred in chunks over 4 months. The final $10,000 was withdrawn the same week Amber bought her boyfriend a used Audi to help him drive her to classes. That was the night I knew 2 things. 1, I wasn't a golden child, I was the fallback plan. 2, no one was coming to save me, so I'd have to save myself. After I saw the bank statements, something inside me snapped. It wasn't just betrayal. It was years of tiny slights finally adding up, the way Amber never got punished but I always did, the way Mom acted like I was too intense or too focused, like being driven was a flaw. Suddenly, everything made sense. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I packed my backpack with some clothes, my laptop, and every important document I owned. I didn't even say goodbye. I walked out while Mom and Amber were asleep, caught a late bus across the city, and stayed the night at my friend Jay's house. His family didn't ask questions. Just gave me a blanket and let me crash on their couch. The next morning, I started making calls. I told my dream school what happened. Explained how the promised college fund had vanished. They connected me to emergency aid and helped restructure my financial aid package. It wasn't perfect, but with a mix of grants, scholarships, and, yes, some brutal student loans, I made it work. I worked 3 jobs through school, tech support, tutoring, and freelance coding gigs. I lived in a shared apartment with 4 other people and made instant noodles a food group. I built things, failed a lot, and taught myself everything I could about software, and machine learning on the side. By my junior year, I had created a small AI scheduling tool for university departments. A professor saw it, introduced me to a startup incubator, and suddenly I was pitching my ideas in conference rooms with people who wore watches worth more than my tuition. By 22, I sold my first startup. Not for millions, but for enough. Enough to pay off my loans. Enough to breathe. Enough to realize I'd never need $1 from my mom again. Over those years, I barely heard from my family. Amber occasionally texted to brag about her artistry. Mom sent me a Christmas card once with no return address. I ignored it. They didn't care when I had nothing. They weren't going to benefit now that I was starting to build everything. But fate? Fate had other plans. Because 3 years after I graduated, I saw a real estate listing that made my blood run cold. It was my childhood home. The one my mom was planning to retire in. For sale. Dirt cheap. Urgent listing. Seller motivated. I clicked the address and just stared. I knew what I had to do. The listing didn't just mention my childhood home, it practically screamed desperation. Urgent sale. Owner relocating. Cash offers preferred. Needs work but has good bones. I clicked through the photos. Same cracked porch swing. Same dent in the hallway wall from when Amber threw a tantrum and launched her hairdryer. Even the faded sticker I put on my bedroom door when I was 12, still there. I felt something I hadn't in years, power. I called the agent. Used a different name, Daniel Knox. An alias I sometimes used for business inquiries when I didn't want my real name tied to early-stage ventures. I told the agent I was an investor looking to flip or rent. Turns out, my mom had defaulted on some debts. Amber had dropped out of art school again, shock, and moved back in. Between Amber's nonsense and Mom quitting her job early to manifest retirement, the place was falling apart and they couldn't afford the mortgage. They were weeks away from foreclosure. Fire sale mode. So I made a cash offer, under asking. It got accepted within 48 hours. I signed the papers. Wired the money. And just like that, I owned the house my mother was planning to die in. The best part? They had no idea. It was all handled through a shell LLC I'd set up 2 years ago for rental properties. No personal name on any paperwork. Just a business address in another city. I didn't touch the house. Not at first. I let them stew. I watched the "for sale" sign come down. Waited for the day they'd get the final notice to vacate. 3 weeks later, I got an alert from my property manager. The house had officially been vacated. No furniture left. No squatters. Just an empty shell of everything they thought they owned. And that's when I decided to pay a little visit. I pulled into the driveway around 9 a.m. on a Monday. The neighborhood looked smaller somehow, like it had shrunk while I grew up. The "sold" sign was gone. The blinds were drawn. The porch light, somehow, was still busted after all these years. I had a copy of the keys in my hand. I stepped up to the front door, my door, and let myself in. Everything was still coated in that familiar scent of old wood, floor polish, and something slightly musty. The walls were bare. The rooms were stripped. But in the kitchen, there was a note on the counter. To the new owner. Please take care of this home. It's been everything to my family. It was in my mother's handwriting. And it nearly made me laugh. The hypocrisy. The audacity. She hadn't taken care of me. She didn't protect my future. But now she wanted me, unknowingly, to preserve her little shrine of self-delusion. I ripped the note in half and tossed it in the trash. That afternoon, I had my property manager change the locks and schedule light renovations, not to erase the past, but to reclaim it. New paint. Refinished floors. I turned my old bedroom into a sleek minimalist workspace. The kitchen got a full upgrade, smart appliances, modern tile. I even fixed the stupid porch swing, not for nostalgia, but because I could. About a month into the renovation process, I got a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it. And there she was. My mother. She looked thinner. Stressed. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun, nothing like the polished image she used to maintain. "Hi," she said cautiously. I used to live here. I was just wondering if the new owner was around." I stared at her in silence for a long beat. Then I smiled. "He is. You're looking at him." Her face drained of color. Her mouth opened slightly but no sound came out. I didn't say anything else. I just shut the door. A week later, my mom called. I didn't answer. She sent texts. "Please, we need to talk. I never wanted it to come to this. You have no idea how hard things have been." I sat on those messages for 2 days before replying. I know exactly what happened. I invited her to meet at a cafe near the city, public enough that I'd feel safe, but private enough to talk. She showed up, nervously clutching her purse, eyes darting everywhere. I looked her in the eye. I saw the transfers. "The money was never meant for me," I said flatly. Her defenses cracked. "I made mistakes," she whispered. Amber needed the money more. She was struggling. Struggling? I laughed bitterly. She dropped out, traveled the world, bought a car she couldn't afford. And you gave her my future. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I was scared," she said. "Your dad's death left us shattered. I thought if Amber succeeded, she could fix things for all of us." I shook my head. "You chose her over me. I wasn't just collateral damage, I was erased." She looked away. "Why buy the house?" she asked quietly. "To remind you that the things you try to take from me, my dreams, my future, they don't belong to you anymore." Her silence was my answer. And then, she said something that surprised me. "I'm sorry. I really am. Can we fix this?" I stared at her. The mom who once held my future in her hands, and let it slip away. That day at the cafe, her apology felt like the first crack in a concrete wall, but also like a test. Could I forgive her? I wasn't sure. Not yet. Over the next few weeks, I met with her a few times. She tried to explain her side, her fears, her regrets, but I couldn't forget the years of neglect, the years of me hustling alone while Amber got handouts. I still felt angry. But something else was growing too. A strange kind of empathy. Because even though Mom made horrible choices, she was also human. And I realized, for the first time, that maybe this wasn't just about money or betrayal. It was about a broken family trying to survive. Meanwhile, my startup was taking off. I'd turned my AI scheduling tool into a full product used by several universities. Revenue was growing fast, and I was becoming a name in tech circles. Mom asked if she could visit the house again. Not as a tenant, not as a former owner, just to see it. I said yes. When she walked through those rooms, she saw not the broken house she left behind, but a symbol of my grit. The house wasn't just bricks and mortar anymore. It was proof that I had taken control of my life. But not everyone was happy. Amber reached out after months of silence, wanting to reconnect. I had to decide whether to let her back in too. After months of silence, Amber's text popped up unexpectedly. I heard about the house. Congrats, I guess. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Amber was the sister who had taken what wasn't hers, who dropped out multiple times, drained family resources, and made no effort to build anything on her own. Yet here she was, coming back with what sounded like an apology. I decided to meet her, but only on my terms. We sat at a cafe. Amber looked tired, her art dreams shattered by reality. I messed up, she said. Mom always made me the golden child, but I wasn't. I used you. I'm sorry. Her eyes pleaded for forgiveness. Part of me wanted to scream, to throw years of pain in her face. But part of me, I just wanted to see if she was really sorry. So I gave her a choice, earn her place back. No freebies, no handouts. Start by paying rent if she wanted to stay in the house. She agreed. The weeks that followed were complicated. Amber tried. She got a part-time job, started community college again, and helped with small repairs on the house. It wasn't easy for either of us. Some days, the past haunted every word. Other days, it felt like maybe we could rewrite the story. Meanwhile, Mom watched from a distance, unsure whether to stay or leave. Just when things started to feel like they might heal, Mom stepped back into the picture, and not in a way I expected. She started showing up unannounced at the house, hovering over Amber and me like a storm cloud. I'm your mother, she'd say firmly. You can't just treat me like a stranger. I reminded her, politely, that she wasn't the owner anymore. I was. The house was my investment, my sanctuary. Mom's pride wouldn't accept that. She pushed to regain control, tried to convince Amber to move out, tried to get me to sell the house back to her, for the family's sake. I refused. Mom's calls became angry, her texts more desperate. You don't know what you're doing. This is our home. I realized then, the battle wasn't just about the house. It was about power. One night, Mom showed up at my office, uninvited. She said, "You think you're better than us now? That money makes you the winner." I looked at her and said, "No. I just won the fight you started." That was the last time she came around. But this war had one final twist coming. Just when I thought the dust had settled, I got a call from a distant relative. "Listen," she said quietly, "there's something you don't know about your mom. About why she acted the way she did." Curious but cautious, I met her at a quiet cafe. She revealed something shocking. Mom's family had been dealing with a long-standing financial crisis, a secret she'd hidden from all of us. Amber's tuition, the debts, even Mom's early retirement, all attempts to cover for a family scandal no one else was supposed to know about. In short, my mom wasn't just reckless or cruel, she was desperate. That explained a lot. But it didn't erase the pain. It made me realize the depth of the cycle I was trapped in. But it also gave me a new perspective, one where anger could turn into something else. Armed with this truth, I reached out to Mom one last time. This time, not to fight. But to understand. I invited Mom over to the house one last time, not as a debtor, not as a mother who'd betrayed me, but as a woman who needed to be heard. We sat in the living room, sunlight filtering through the windows. No accusations, no bitterness. Just a conversation. She told me everything, the financial crisis, the shame, the fear of losing her family's legacy. And I told her how her choices shaped me, how losing that fund pushed me to fight harder, build more, become more. But I also told her something else. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to break this cycle. For me. For Amber. For anyone who comes after us. She nodded, tears in her eyes. We agreed on boundaries. On respect. On rebuilding, slowly, carefully. Today, I run a successful tech company and own multiple properties, including that house. Mom and Amber have their paths too, still complicated but healing. I'm not perfect. Neither is my family. But this story isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your future when those who should protect you let you down.